Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome back to my hobby blog. Today I'm going to be reviewing episode 7 of Wheel of Time season 3. So, I was honestly really loving this episode. This was my favorite episode aside from episode 4 where we go to Iridian. This entire episode was fantastic for like 75% of it. I just loved it. I loved singularly focusing on Perrin. I was really hoping that we would get one episode with Perrin, and I got it, so I'm very happy about that. We were able to take our time with this. I really enjoyed the slow build to the battles. I liked the battles themselves. I loved the little moments with our characters where Loyal is talking to Bane and Chiad, and it's like, this may be our final night, and if so, I want to do Maiden's Kiss. And he does it, and it's really fun. He decides, or the Aiel, Ban and Chiad, decide not to kill him because he rejects both of the kisses. And he's sort of like giving himself up for the bigger team, which comes around later, which I will get into. But I was actually really enjoying the interactions between Fael and Perrin, especially because they're talking to each other about sort of their anxieties about battle, and Perrin is like, you need to go, I don't want you here, you could die, and Fael is like, what, like your wife? You think you're gonna kill me like your wife? And he's like, you're going too far, and it's like such great drama. This is like what I want, and I was really happy about that. I was happy that he was at his forge for most of this episode until the battle began because he's working on an axe, and he takes up the hammer about halfway through the episode, which is a really important moment that I really enjoyed, especially in this episode. And I also really enjoyed the sort of back and forth between the two rivers people and Perrin and the Aiel and all of them. And also Maxim, because Maxim is training some of the Two Rivers people, and Sinbui is like, hey, like, I can do a lot better with a longbow. Like, why won't you let me do that? And Maxim is like, okay, fine. If you think you're better doing that and you think you can actually draw a longbow, go for it. And then Sinbui does, and Maxim is like, yeah, these are the Two Rivers longbowmen that I've been hearing about. And it's really fun. I really enjoyed that. I actually greatly enjoyed this episode until the last 25%. I'm trying to think anything else. I want to say that the Alana scenes, I enjoyed this episode for the most part. Matt's sisters are actually having lines now. They're actually characters, so I was enjoying those scenes a lot more than I was in previous episodes, which was nice. I will say the White Cloak stuff I didn't like as much. And also Lord Luke, because we keep hearing about Lord Luke, but he never really showed up. He was always by Dane Bornhold, and I like the Dane Bornhold scenes. Him and Perrin meeting up before the battle was a lot of fun. I like them kind of going eye to eye, being like, yeah, blood is just going to keep on being drawn. Like, I will give myself up after the battle if you join us. And Dane is like, we're not joining you. But after the battle, if you're still around, we will capture you, so you better be around, Perrin. And that was just such a fun dynamic we witnessed. And it reminded me of the books. I don't want to keep comparing it to the books, but I think this episode is the one that most felt like the book when I was reading it, like reading Perrin's scenes. Although I think there's still a lot missing from the Perrin scenes. We see Aram show back up, which was a lot of fun. But he just, aside from his really powerful moment where he picks up a sword and his mother sees that, or his grandmother, I believe, because his parents died, is what it was explained in the first season, I believe. But Aaron picks up the sword, and that was such a great moment. But aside from that, we didn't really get much Aaron. We got one or two lines about how his grandfather died, and they sort of just had to keep on going, because that's the Tinker way. And I enjoyed that, but, like, I wanted more of, not Perrin, but Aram sort of beginning his journey as sort of the anti-Tinker, because that is such a fascinating storyline that sort of peters out for me in the books, but I think the show could really expand upon that storyline and make it better, and I hope they do. But that was a really incredible moment, seeing his grandmother, seeing her grandson picking up the sword after killing someone, and it's just like the flashbacks in Viridian, but now we see characters we actually care about that we've seen a few episodes here and there throughout the series. And it's a gut-wrenching moment. That was probably my favorite moment in this episode, was Aram killing someone and then his grandmother seeing him with the sword. It was really gut-wrenching. I really enjoyed that scene. But I'm trying to think anything else. The Aiel, Bane, and Chiad and Loyal go up to the raid gate, and they're trying to shut it down. And it's not being able to shut down. This is where all the reinforcements are coming in. And it's really not a good thing to have for the Two Rivers people. So Bane and Chiad and Loyal go and try and shut it down, but the Avengers Sora for some reason is not working. And this is different to how I remembered it in the books, because in the books for the raid gate, you can just remove the Avengers Sora leaf, and no one can use it on the other side. And I thought that's what they were going to do, because you sort of need both parts working on both sides for you to be able to use the gate. So if they just shut down the one side of the gate, that's fine. And instead, Loyal goes into the rays and busts down the bridge and kills himself in order to save everybody else, which any other character I would have been fine with. Throw Aram in there, throw, I don't know, Maxim. Throw anybody in there. But Loyal, I was not happy about that at all, and I thought about not watching the show anymore after this episode because of it, but I'm not going to do that because there's one episode left. I'm not that childish. But I was really, really angry by that, and I hate that they've seemingly killed Loyal, because the last time he supposedly died, which I never believed he died, he was stabbed by Patton Fane with the ruby dagger. And I never believed for a second that Loyal died, but I remember when that episode aired, everybody was losing their mind, saying, oh my god, Loyal is dead. I was like, hold on, y'all. This is a fake. This is a twist. Like, whatever. Like, he's not dead. But this time, it feels a lot more final, because it's in the rays, and the entire Waygate collapses into the black hole, basically, of the rays. And I guess we're not getting Loyal ever again. Oh well. Fuck this show. It's basically my reaction to that event, because Loyal is so fucking important to me in terms of the through line of the books. Like, Loyal is always there with this book. It's always important. It's important to the entire thing, because his entire goal is to have a book about the Dragon Reborn that people can read about after the last battle. That's his entire goal. And it ends up that the entire point of the book was actually for Manetheren, which I am fine with. On paper, I am fine with it. But in the actual show, so much of it just falls apart for me in my head. And I don't know how they're going to write around this. I feel like the show is definitely not following the books anymore, which is, like I've said before, I'm fine with changes. But killing Loyal, like, I don't understand that at all. I would love to hear the justifications for killing Loyal, because I feel like he wasn't being used at all in the show. He was just kind of in the periphery. And I was hoping that we would get just more of him, but they've axed him. And on top of that, we have Aemon Valda, who is causing just all the shit with the questioners. He finds Natty Cawthon, who is Matt's mother, and also Matt's sisters are there as well, looking over her, and Alana is sort of struggling. She can't channel. Oh no, Nat's mother is not there. She was died and torched in a previous episode. Sorry. But Alana and Matt's sisters are there, but Alana is wounded in the bed. And Aemon Valda just kind of shows up and is like, hey, you're the witch I was trying to kill. Like, hey, you guys are actually the witches. Like, you sisters. Damn, I should have killed you instead. And the sisters kill Aemon Valder and torch him. That was a great moment. I loved seeing him torched because I felt like Matt's mother did not deserve the death that she got. And I was very unhappy with the way that they sort of just killed her off to try and get us to feel, even though they've had 0 lines through most of the show. But Matt's sisters, they finally upgrade to become a character in the show, and they have lines, and they say, like, this is for my mother, and it was a great moment. And then Aemon Valder is torched. And it just makes me wonder why he was killed now, because Aemon Valder, I guess, is not really that important in the grand scheme of things, so it doesn't really matter when you're trying to tell the story of the Dragon Reborn. But Aemon Valder has a really, really cool duel later in the series, and I remember someone commented on my trailer reaction saying, like, yeah, I understand you not liking Garwin and Galad, but there's a really cool duel later in the books with Garwin and Aemon Valder that I really, really enjoy. It's a fan favorite moment, I believe. At least it's a favorite moment for me in the later books. But, like, what's going to happen with that now? How is that going to affect Garwin's story now? It's really interesting to think about. But as a fan, I don't like it at all. I want to put that out there. I hated having Loyal died. I don't really like that Aemon Valder died, but in terms of drama and story wrap-ups, I think it was a great moment. I don't know, like, this is how I feel for a lot of these episodes in Wheel of Time, is that I feel really great, I'm loving it for like 75% of it, and then the last 25% of the episode, they always do something that's like, sort of like Game of Thrones, where episode 7 was sort of, well, episode 9, I believe, yeah, it was episode 9, because it was 10 episodes a season. Episode 9 was always like the big, like, whoa moment for the fans. And I feel like the last 25%, they're always putting like a big whoa event for the episodes, but it's, instead of a whoa event, it's like a book change event. So it's like, okay, in the last 25% of the episode, we need to do something that's different from the books, that's interesting, that's going to make the fans and also the show-only fans sort of argue about sort of whether this is a good moment or not. And this is what I love about being part of the fandom, is sort of this discussion, sort of like trying to argue for one case or the other. And that's why I want more people to talk with about the show, but really it feels like no one is watching the show anymore. And I see, at least I'm going off of my views for the videos, because we're on episode 7 now, and all my videos have not been doing as well as the season 2 ones. I don't even remember if I did the season 2. I can't remember, but it feels like there's a lot less engagement this season around the series, but everyone who's stuck around seems to love it so much more, and I'm saying that as someone who enjoys the show a lot more than I did during season 1 and 2. Season 3, I think, is at the level that we should have been at since season 1, but I'm happy that the show has gone to those moments. But I think all these book changes that are being done, I don't think they're good changes. I'm trying to think of any changes that I do like, but there's really not that much. I really hope episode 8 is a big wowzer of an episode, because I don't know how I feel about the show overall. It's just really interesting. I'm trying not to hiccup right now, so I apologize if you hear any noises, but I think my rating for this episode, I had it around 8.5 before those moments happened when Loyal got killed and Aemon Valder was torched. And also the moment when Perrin is taken away by the White Cloaks. That did not happen in the books. The Two Rivers people stood up and said, fuck you, White Cloaks. You're not taking Golden Eyes. And we sort of get that moment in the show, but Perrin is taken, and he's taken away by the White Cloaks. I don't like that specifically, but I think I'm open-minded to it because it's interesting. I do want to see Perrin under the white cloaks. I want to see some spicy dialogue. So I hope we get that. But aside from that, I was going to give this episode an 8.5 before those moments. But I think I'm going to have to give it a 6 out of 10. Because I did not like it at all. I don't understand why Loyal was killed. I think it's really stupid. I think it completely undermines the biggest sort of through lines of the series, which is this legend of the Dragon Reborn. And Loyal sort of adds to that, because he's an Ogier. No one really knows about Ogier. And seeing this, like, historian going around writing about the Dragon Reborn, and there's a few people who remark on it in the books, where they're like, oh, you're still writing that book? And he's like, this is important. This is important to my identity. I need to give people sort of the chance to know the Dragon Reborn as a person, instead of as this terrifying person, like, creature, from, legend or whatever. But I don't know. I've given this like a 6, maybe a 5 out of 10. I really disliked it. I do really enjoy that first 75% though. I think that was just awesome. But man, that last 25%, I did not like it whatsoever. And I'm sorry to say that, but that's how I feel. And I would love to talk with more people about the show, but no one really cares to talk about it. So thank you all so much for watching, and please have a great rest of the day.